Welcome to Stylist Soul Tribe Conversations. I'm your host, Lisa Huff. Over the last 5 years, I've coached hundreds of hairstylists and beauty industry professionals, helping them work their dream schedules exclusively with their dream clientele and earn their dream income, all while fostering genuine connections and lifelong friendships inside the beauty industry. In this podcast, we dive deep into abundance, manifestation, business building strategies, and creating a life that you are truly proud of, both behind the chair and at home. Are you ready to embark on a journey of personal growth, success, and sisterhood? Then hit that subscribe button now and get ready to experience the pure magic of Stylist Soul Tribe Conversations. Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stylist Soul Tribe Conversations. Today is a special episode because I get to introduce you to a dear friend and incredible force in the industry, Angie Mamone. Angie is a second-generation hairstylist, a successful salon owner, and an educator known for her signature programs, Behind the Extensions, Stylist Assistant Training Program, and the Empowered Stylist. Angie has been a cornerstone in my life for years. She's the kind of person that you can always rely on to show up fully and share her wisdom generously. So I'm grateful to know her and call her a friend, and I just had to bring her on to one of the first podcast episodes. And thank you so much for being here.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited and also so proud of you because to see this whole vision of Soul Tribe, like literally from when it started years ago, but on the end of it, like the idea end of it, not the student end of it or, your community end of it has been incredible to just see how focused you are on that vision and bringing it to life.
Thank you for saying that. And obviously, you've been a huge part through the journey. When Soul Tribe was a baby idea and when it was first really digging its roots down and I was trying to figure it all out, we were in Thrivers Elite together. And I feel like that's really when our close friendship formed and started. And then the 2022 retreat, you were obviously there. So you are interwoven into Soul Tribe. I feel like you have been going hard on your summits the last couple of years. All of Soul Tribe is taking your courses and doing your thing. So we're definitely interwoven, and I'm so grateful for. So thank you for saying that you're proud and that you like to see this come to life, because it really has been a whole ass journey. And I know alongside, as I've been bringing this whole education and all of Soul Tribe to life, you've kind of been right there doing it side by side. It's really cool, those friendships we formed back then and seeing where all of us are now years later. So I guess to those that don't know who you are, that are listening to this podcast, it's their first time meeting you, will you tell us a little bit of your backstory, maybe starting from getting into the industry all the way to where you're at with education and everything now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started in the industry genuinely because my dad was in the industry. I grew up going to hair shows. I was always a model all through my teenage years for, whatever haircut, color, anything. And that's really what I saw that end of it and it was fun, but I didn't spend any time in the salon with my dad. He worked behind the chair, all the things. And then by the time I really had an interest in it, he was getting ready to open his own cosmetology school. That was always his big dream.
How old were you when he opened the school?
17 or 18.
Okay, cool.
He bought an existing school. So It was interesting to watch how bad he wanted it for so long. Yeah. And then he got a call from this, we always call her little old lady because that's what she was. She was ready to retire. She had a ton of schools in her day. And just one night she called, he was in the shower and she was like, wow. Are you the guy that wanted to buy my school? And he was like, yeah, are you ready to sell? She was like, I sure am. And it was that, everything started. So, and that was around about the time I started, I was kind of shied away from the industry, get a bachelor's degree, whatever. So I was going to be a teacher. I was going to do this and that, but I really had no idea what I wanted to do. I just liked makeup, which is funny because I don't wear hardly any makeup anymore. And so I ended up finishing my bachelor's degree, starting cosmetology school at the same time. So I have a bachelor's in business admin.
Amazing.
And then went to cosmetology school, assisted in a salon for a couple months. And then I opened my own salon within my dad's space, which was a total shock. Nothing I ever planned because he was renting to somebody else. He had closed his shop when he opened the cosmetology school. So that was never in the back of my head. I've never been somebody who expects things that are somebody else's to be handed to me. So one day I was just I think I'm going to go to cosmetology school. And it was what I wanted to do when I was younger, but didn't follow through. So cosmetology school, opened a salon. It was very small. It's always been small. I've only ever had a handful of employees. People always ask me how I can kind of do it all. And I think that's the key, is knowing my limits and my boundaries with it. So I have 2 employees in my salon. We've been open for, I think, 12 years now.
Amazing.
And one's been with me for 10 years. One has been with me for 5.
Wow.
And then all through that first 10 years as a salon owner, I was also working in the cosmetology school. So I was eventually became director of education. It was very clear that I was strong in organizing things, lesson plans, that type of stuff. And then I also worked for Paul Mitchell as an educator. So color came very natural to me. Color theory, that's what I love to teach. And eventually, Kristen, I met Kristen at Brits. It's so funny how I don't know
whose podcast is going to come first, but whether you're listening to Angie's first or you just listened to Kristen's, they're coming very close to each other. So my people will know Kristen.
Okay, perfect. So I met Kristen at Brit's first retreat, and I didn't know her at all. And she just kept talking about extensions. And I was like, I don't know who this girl is, but she keeps dropping the F-bomb. So I really just trust her and everything she says. Yeah. So I went home, I signed up for an extension class, and that led me down an entire different path of specializing. And it has treated me so well because the income is just so different than, and I don't think there's any one better service than the other, but that's when I found true financial freedom in my business. And I don't think that's the only way to be successful. I don't think you have to be an extension artist. That's just part of what my journey was. So I spent a couple years really diving into extensions. Yeah. And a few years in, it depends on what side of the extension world you're in, but some of it can be pretty mean girl. And it's very like branded. And if you're not just
what year did you first dip your toes into extensions?
2016, 2017. Okay. Keep right going. In that, like I started training 2016, but did like my first real class 2017. Okay. And like, I noticed it, like I had amazing training. Like I don't regret taking a single class, a single penny I spent. I have nothing like bad to say, but at the same time, like the longer I spent with one, it was like, okay, I think my time here has been amazing and it's time to move on. Yep. But I also had spent so much money. I didn't want to like step away. I was like, I already invested this. I want to stay. It was like, I was holding on to this. So I noticed I was starting to like hide the next level of education that I was taking. And then I kept like seeking these other classes because I wanted to be the best in like my area or whatever. And then when COVID happened, it was right alongside, not long after, was right alongside Brit's virtual live. Thrivers Live
2021 we were together in Huntington Beach. That was definitely like a big milestone in your life.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And that's where the idea of behind the extensions came from. It was a 60-minute class I taught for Thrivers Live. And the more I just wanted to touch on the pre-visit, the post-visit, and pricing. I was like, if I can just get those points across, like those are the things that I really felt I taught myself where it was like missing the mark. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have the education that I was craving, and I thought I had developed really unique systems. So Thrivers Live virtual happened. I was an educator there, and
2021.
BTE has just evolved. Like that 1-hour class has grown into a couple hundred students. So cool. It's crazy. Several modules, lots of things added, but really like a community of people that just don't have the pressure of a brand. And that's kind of where I'm at today, is just, I have so much at my fingertips, and I'm just excited about, I feel like all the hard work and the hustle is really like I'm seeing it all pay off. Like it's all been worth it. I know sometimes we feel like I've just tried so hard and I've tried so hard, and it's like, when is it going to happen? And like,
it's really dug its roots
it's right
down.
Here.
Yeah. And you've been going nonstop at it. That's your hard work paying off. So I obviously listed out a few of your offerings, and obviously knowing from behind the scenes where your brain's at, different things you've come up with. It's safe to say that that's really been where your focus has been the last couple of years, right? Is BTE.
100%. Yeah. So I created Empowered Stylist. It's it's nothing to do with extensions. It was for the people who were begging me to do something. And I don't even want to call it similar, but it was really like numbers and kind of how I shifted my schedule over the years some digital forms. It's kind of like a compilation of all
and
my
almost you
little
finding
stuff.
yourself coaching over and the same thing over and over again. Let me just
Yes.
put it all together. So when I get asked this question again, here it is.
And it's very affordable. Like I don't
Love.
promote it. It's there when I need something to, I don't want to say fall back on, but like if somebody needs a resource, it's there for them.
Yep. Love that.
And assistant training program, that's actually where I wanted to start with virtual education. And
I remember
BTE
that so
just
clearly.
like shifted everything. And so I ended up I had a huge wait list for it. So I put together the very foundations of it. And long-term vision would be to have people send their assistants to my training facility and spend a week there and really refine those skills.
And clearly, I feel like you are like the perfect person to teach that, because with your experience owning a salon, being in a cosmetology school, teaching for so long, like it just makes sense. I totally understand that. Okay, so it's actually really cool. Obviously, I knew that, but I never heard you tell the story in that format. So perfect anyway, because this podcast is going to be a lot about law of attraction, personal development, things like that. I know you're just as into that as I am. We all kind of have our own different like spin on it and like what lands for us and what doesn't. So what I'm hearing in that story is the universe, something bigger was at play, and whatever plan you had and whatever, idea that you had of how this was all going to come out, the universe kind of stepped in and things happened exactly how they were supposed to. So I guess tell me a bit of like where you fall with like your spiritual journey, your law of attraction journey. Cause I even know you and I will sometimes like do vision casting, vision boarding workshops and stuff like that. So we obviously have very similar thoughts in that, but I've never heard like how you got introduced to that and what your journey has been through that.
Yeah. If I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if I remember the first time I started doing like a vision board of any sort. I do remember, was it like Woo Woo Sunday when I possibly even got into The Secret? That was like the first time I really heard.
When I did too. And it's so funny because people who are going to be listening to this, I've already had Brit on. Like, it's so funny how
that's why I'm saying these stories, because it's,
but yeah, it was pivotal in our life. So, okay, Woo Woo Sunday, same as you, kind of how you got, so about those same years, 2016, 2017 is like when you kind of started getting into that stuff.
100%. So somewhere in that realm. And it's funny because a lot of people will say things to me like, oh, well, you've been, and I don't take it as a backhanded compliment, but it'll be like, oh, you've been handed those things, or, oh, because my dad's in this. And like, the building that I'm in, like, yeah, this is my dad's building. And but for many years I paid rent on this building too. You know what I mean? It's not just all strictly been handed to me, but I have been very fortunate. But I also feel like there were a lot of things I felt like I had to do. And I don't regret any of them though, because it helped me refine what my skills are. Like I work for
What are some of those things? Yeah.
Like organization with Paul Mitchell. So I spent over, 10 years working for Paul Mitchell. And I always knew that it wasn't what I wanted to do long-term. And I have no hate for Paul Mitchell at all. I learned so much about being an educator, but the biggest thing for me was getting to spend time like traveling with my dad as part of why I wanted to do that. So it's funny, like being in the position now where I'm barely behind the chair. I'm there about 1 day a week. It just depends on the week, about 4 to 6 hours. And I spend most of my time just getting to create like what I always envisioned my career to be.
Yeah.
It's like, how did this it feels like it took so long, but it's like, no, it all happened so quick.
You know, like the days are long, the years are short kind of feeling. 100%. Like talking now, looking back years, it feels like that. But I remember those Marco Polos back and forth of like, fuck, we just can't figure this out. We feel stuck right now. We feel like we're at a standstill right now. And it's such a trip to look back on it. I love to hear that. That's really amazing and really cool. Okay, so let's take the conversation towards specializing. So you said you got certified in extensions, you went all in on that, saw a ton of its success, and that's what then led you to teach it. We're in very similar boats. I'm now behind the chair, usually 2 days a week, sometimes one, same 4 to 6 hour shifts, mostly doing online education, but I love being behind the chair. But I didn't go the route you did with like hardcore specializing. And I think you could go either way, but I'm very intrigued by the conversation around specializing. So like for a random stylist listening to this, who's not, as far along in their journey as us, like what is your take on specializing, not just in extensions, but as a whole?
I'm one of those people. I know a lot of people will say like, you need to know what you're going to do and just run with it. But seeing so many stylists come through our cosmetology school, some people would come in like, I just want to do nails. And as soon as they touched hair, they fell in love, or they would think they would just want to do one thing. So I think everybody should kind of dip their toes in everything a little bit, because you never know what you're going to love. And you can be a specialist in anything. Like you don't have to, I think extension specialty is like the buzzword, but you can be a haircutting specialist, a curly. I mean, there's a specialist for literally everything. And I think the biggest thing is figuring out what you would do for free, like what brings you the most joy, what lights you up, and you know, sometimes it's a type of client or sometimes it's a type of service, but figuring out what you love and then chasing after that instead of the reverse.
So don't like hear someone else's success story and say, oh, this person's an extension specialist, that's what I'm going to do. Don't learn anything else because your magic might be elsewhere. What did that look like though, when you like got certified in extensions? Like what did that transition? Because correct, all you do is extensions now. And
no, I still have some color clients.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
But when you went into like, okay, I am specializing, like what did that journey look like?
It was a lot more hours than what I would have liked. And then honestly, like it was so overwhelming because I feel cocky when I say this and I don't mean it, but like color was always easy to me. It came pretty natural. It's not like I'm the best in the world, but like I can do a really good consultation. And I think that's where I shine with color. So when it came to hair extensions, I didn't have anyone next to me telling me what I did wrong. Like, yeah, I could send pictures, but like, it's different when nobody's there. So even just teaching somebody how to brush their hair, like you don't realize with a color service, you're not really like, yeah, you tell them like, oh, make sure you're using color safe shampoo or this and that. But I mean, down to like, you can't let sunscreen touch your blonde extensions.
Extensions was just much more in depth.
And so I was just like, I need everybody. I want everybody. And I'm like, oh my gosh, these paychecks are amazing. And it was great. But then like, oh, a bead slipped. Well, I already came in on my day off to do your hair. And now I have to come in but I already put somebody else on my day off. Like it was draining. So it was like, okay, how do I take a step back? And honestly, that's kind of the start of BTE way back in 2017, where it was like, okay, let me put together like a little step-by-step of how to brush your hair. And then it was like all of that stuff kind of compiled because nobody was talking about those things, like the problems with this specialty, especially extensions, because it's not just you're attaching something to somebody's head. And then they have to maintain that, not just their own hair. And especially if they're getting, you know, I have really long hair, it's a lot. So walking them, like hand holding them through it. But once you get over that hump, it really, like, it was worth it once I had those systems in place. And it did take a long time to figure out those things, but it was hard.
Yeah. How many years or what did that process look like? Because I'm trying to think of, for somebody listening to this, deciding if they should specialize and knowing when that's right. And let me just say, from my perspective, I'd love to hear too, because now we're all like knee deep talking with hundreds of stylists on a regular basis. Obviously, extension specializing, like you said, hair cutting specialist. I feel like from my perspective and who I have in Soul Tribe, what I'm learning is that a specialization right now that I feel like is the new extension specialty is curl specialists. Curl specialists are making so much money and taking all these curl specific courses, learning curl specific styling. What does that mean to you to specialize? Like, I hate to even say it this way, but like, how much time and energy did you go all in on learning extensions? Not even what kind of money did you spend? Because I know your mission is to not have people fall into that trap of that. But like, what does that mean for somebody listening who is in no way, shape, or form specializing if they wanted to start doing that with what they feel like is their like magic touch?
So it's the same. I don't know. It's so hard. Like in extensions, everyone's like, well, I need to get this certification and that certification and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, first off, you don't need a certification. Like your license is what, and I do say that with a little caution because there are very few states where like you do have to have an additional certification. It's very rare.
Okay.
But it's like, for me, what made me feel like an extension specialist is people were coming to me to have their problem solved that nobody else could solve. And they're still coming to me. Now, did I label myself as an extension specialist before that? Yes, because I put tons of time into my education. When I first started, I would say a good at least 10 to 15 hours a week for the first several months.
Yeah.
And for the first year, I was probably spending 45 minutes, 5-6 days a week, just practicing beadwork because it was interesting. Like when I started, the first couple were really bad. And then after like 1 or 2 rows, I'm like, or 3 or 4 rows, maybe I was like, okay, I think I got the hang of this. And then I started installing all these extensions and I was like, okay, like this isn't bad. Like I got it.
I'm pretty good at this. Yeah.
And then like, as I learned more, I was like, oh, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. And I still kind of learn those little things today. Like there's always that next level. But for me, what a specialist is like you're solving problems that the majority can't. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. And like, so, like don't overthink it. What do you want to do? Like,
and that's where it almost comes down to like North Star, just being intentional, whatever your, you know, goal setting system is. But if you decide, okay, I've been, you know, in the industry for however long, I've been taking a lot of classes, I shine. Hearing Angie say that, you know what, you're right. Clients will come to me from other places running into this issue. This is the one thing that I solve and people stick with me. Like it's just making that decision and deciding to go all in on that and being intentional. And then the next time a random class pops up and you're like, oh, should I do it? Should I spend the money? Should I not? Is that in line with your vision of how you're trying to specialize and what that looks like? So I don't know if you're going to know the answer to this question because I don't know if I have like a crystal clear answer, but like, how would you say, you know, like how would somebody know if specializing is right for them? Like when is the right, like 1 year in, 5 years in, 10 years in, anytime? What would you say to people for that?
I feel like it can go like 2 different ways. Like one, a lot of people are coming to you for that specific thing. Cause I've even coached students through like gray coverage. It's not their favorite service to do, but it's okay. But they can't, like people keep coming to them for that. I'm like, okay, well, what if you made 2 times the amount of money doing that one thing? Because when you are able to do things other people can't, like not gray coverage, like going gray, like transitioning back.
Gray transition. I know what you're talking about, which is a skill.
Not for me, but like people will pay really good money to have that service in 1 or 2 visits as
to solve a specific problem. Yes.
Exactly. Or you find yourself like so lit up by that one thing. I think those are like the 2 deciding factors. Like
so let me hang on, pause right there. So what you're saying is if there's a service that people are coming because you're solving a problem, maybe you don't love it, maybe you even kind of cringe a little bit when you see it on your books. What you're saying is, would you hate doing that service as much as if you were charging 2 times the amount? And then if you ask them that, they're like, maybe not.
I've had so many people like, well, I mean, maybe. I'm like, exactly. Like, because
but the demand is there for it. Yeah. And if that many people are looking for it, you can. Me and Hunter were just having this conversation privately yesterday. We were talking about a pricing class he's creating and how many people are like, oh, I hate haircut onlys. And it's like, well, would you hate doing them if you made a certain amount? Like, what is it? Go ahead.
The problem with haircutting, most people, the problem isn't the haircut. It's the fact that let's say you work until 6 p.m. It doesn't matter, 10 to 6. And somebody books a haircut at 3:30. And then if you need 3 hours if you're doing an hour for that haircut and they're there till 4:30, and now you need 3 hours for that color spot, it messes up your schedule.
Yeah.
So what I do is I coach to priority booking. If you still want to keep that service and you put them on a wait list, and a week before, if they still want to sit in your chair, you can reach out and say, hey, this is what I have next week for a haircut. And you work them into your schedule. And people will either take it or leave it. Like, it doesn't have to be bad to do haircuts.
What we find too with all these very niche specific one-on-one coaching calls, because I found myself in a lot of those situations too, is it's not one size fits all. If you're an independent hairstylist, sorry to those of you who like work in commission salons and your employees, bring these things up to your owner. But like if you are an independent hairstylist, you get to make the rules. So like Angie said, do we have priority booking here for haircuts? I'll sometimes say to people, well, what if you book 90 minutes? They're like, well, it only takes me 50 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, but you hate doing back-to-back haircuts all day. So book 90 minutes. Charge for 90 minutes, take 15 minutes in between each client to rest and recharge. Like, would you like doing it more then? And a lot of people are like, well, yeah, I guess I would, because they don't want their schedule to fill up with 10 haircuts in a day. What if they're longer services? What if they're more amped up? All this to say, I'm not even saying that anybody listening to this should pick one of those things. You can be flexible and you can make the rules and you can change your service menus and your offerings around what works for you. But I think that's exactly what Angie was explaining. Okay, so I really made you get off track. So I just really wanted to make sure people heard that the one is you're clearly good at something. If you think you don't like it, we're going to encourage you to explore that more. Do you actually not like it, or should you be charging more for it and change your structure around it? Second is, what'd you say? What really, really lights you up?
Yeah. Like there's nothing that lights me up more than when like somebody has the aha moment in a class and I know that they're going to leave there. And even if they don't realize it, but like that one little thing is going to make their every single day life better behind the chair or their life, whatever. Like that's what truly lights me up. But I'm also don't want to do one-on-one coaching and one-on-one classes 24/7 either. I like the variety that the industry brings.
I love that. And I even coach too, like a yes, no, maybe list. I'm sure you've heard some of my content around that. Even if you run a yes, no, maybe list, and again, I don't know when that podcast will come out, but I'll do one around the cycle of success. A lot of the times, and that it's an exercise where you take your entire clientele list, you grab a piece of paper, put 2 lines down the middle. We have yes, maybe, and no. And you essentially Marie Kondo your client list and you say, does this client spark joy? Do that exercise. And you also may find that everybody in your yes pile is getting a certain service or is getting a certain thing done, where everybody in your no pile is maybe another service. So it's really telling, not just energetically and like client personality wise, but also like what services are really lighting you up. And maybe if all those yeses are one thing specific, maybe it's time in 2024 to double down on that thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Love it. Cool. Okay. So I know BTE is like a beast. There is a lot in there. Can you like kind of start to break down what is inside of BTE, what people get? Because also, I don't know when I'll be sharing this, but Angie also is being extremely generous. This is probably our biggest donation we have for this podcast giveaway. She is giving away one membership. What do I call it? One BTE program. To a winner. So can you like tell us a bit of what's inside of BTE? One, for the person who's hoping to win it, and then 2 for anybody else who's listening to this.
Yeah, for sure. So we go through, I kind of have it as the 4 Ps, and it expands a little bit, but pre-visit, post-visit, pricing, and positioning.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, your pre-visit, everything before a client sees you. So from sales strategies, your applications, automating that whole process, email marketing, there's literally like templates that you can import with all the verbiage if you're completely unfamiliar. I try to walk through as much as I can step by step, which makes the course so much longer than what it quote unquote needs to be. But some people need that. They're not good with tech. So I try to walk step by step, but I've also broken it up. So if you know how to do that, you don't have to watch it as well.
Through it. Yeah.
So there's like literally sales page templates for you to, if you don't have anything, whether it's an example, import. So I try to provide as many templates as possible, because this is the stuff that's holding people back. And this is where so many of us are spending our time and literally wasting our time. And it's to me why we can't take a step forward in the industry. We're so stuck like being busy that we're not focusing on what's important.
Yeah.
And these are the tasks that are busy. So that's kind of pre-visit. And then post-visit is a little bit similar, automating all of that, like contract to sending all of your aftercare. So aftercare templates, from small like postcards that you can print to ebooks to videos. And people that are like, that's overkill. I'm like, it's not, when you understand the different learning styles.
Yeah.
Again, circling back to the whole, I learned the different learning styles by being a cosmetology educator. So it all circles back, but it's not overkill. The people who need it are going to use it. And when it's all automated, it doesn't feel so like daunting. So pre-visit, post-visit, pricing. I mean, pricing is such a mess in our industry. I mean, some people have it dialed in, but most people, especially with extensions, have no clue why they're charging what they're charging. And I always use the example, if you and I were working in 2 suites next to each other, that's about 2 buildings next to each other, and you rented one and I owned mine, my overhead is way different than yours. Our pricing should not be the same. So you have to factor all of that in. So many of my students are losing money on extensions because the hair itself is so expensive. It's usually thousands. of dollars. So we go deep into pricing, like where you should be at in your business.
I'm also just going to say this real quick. I think it's a trip for the people who get into extensions, who see these big numbers gross, and then at what takes place. And I know so many people that are like, I'm making so much money and I can like hardly even scrape by. So I love that you are bringing clarity to that, because I think we don't all have a business degree like you do. Like, we just kind of jump into this and say, hey, this is what I have to offer. And sometimes with no rhyme or reason, just winging it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I get from everybody all the time. They're like, I hate numbers. I hate numbers. I'm like, cool. Would you rather charge $100 or $1,000 for a haircut? Obviously, everyone's going to say $1,000. I'm like, wonderful. You don't hate numbers. You hate math. Use the tools at your fingertips. Like, you don't have to do the math. It's 2023. That's all done for us. So
I have a girl in Soul Tribe who always says you have to know your numbers to grow your numbers. And I think that's very empowering, because I've been that person before too, that will just say like, oh, my brain doesn't work that way, I can't. But like,
you've told me that before.
You have to get to the point though where you get empowered to, this isn't natural to me, but I'm going to learn the skills and tools that I need. So I love that you're giving people those tools. Keep going.
You can always delegate that stuff, but I think you need to have an understanding of it first, and then you can hire help to manage it, whatever. So my favorite quote, and it was, I think, the first thing ever said to me in this industry. I was at a hair show a couple months before I started cosmetology school. My dad snuck me in as like a student. I didn't even know how to hold a pair of scissors, and I was in there cutting a mannequin. And one of the educators said, if you don't fall in love with numbers, you'll always work for someone who does. And like, that rang so true to me when I started getting into extensions, because people would tell me like, oh, just charge $1,800, you'll be good. And don't buy 14. Don't buy 14-inch extensions. Just make them get 18s and cut it all off to whatever length. And I'm like, but you're literally cutting off like hundreds of dollars of hair. And I feel like that's a waste for my client. Like, that doesn't align with me. I have no problem charging, but like, those were the things that drove me to like create these systems.
But those were uneducated people spewing advice that they
were charging tens of thousands of dollars for education. So, and again, like, I don't regret one penny. I have nothing bad to say about, like, I'm grateful for every ounce of education I've had. Even the bad. For sure. And then the final piece of it is positioning. So social media, how to position yourself as the expert. I think the best advice I could give anybody looking to grow their extension business, this is the number one problem everyone has. It's not how to place the bead. It's not any of that. It's how do I get more clients? And when you realize you're not selling hair extensions and that you're solving a problem and selling a feeling, that's when the true, nobody wants to buy hair extensions.
No,
they want to buy the transformation. And when you realize that, that's why I'm so big on before and after photos. And so we go into like social media strategy, how to talk on social media, how to come up with content, because I know that's the huge, and then it becomes a little bit easier. So I think positioning is huge, being the go-to expert in your area where people actually want to pay you. So it's not as hard as people think it is, but we make it harder because we admire educators and we try to mimic their content. And that's not what
without
a client
knowing
wants.
the backstory. Well, and also without knowing the backstory of what their intention is, what's going in. And you're right, they're trying to talk to you as a hairstylist. That's why we need to be
talking to our clients.
Yeah.
And I also think that, and then it comes full circle. Once you start showcasing your personality, you start attracting people who you get along with.
Yeah.
The more you're on social media, like, you should be attracting and repelling people. So that's a lot, but a little bit about what's inside.
Totally. Yeah. And BTE is like a course and a membership, correct? Like,
it's not a membership. It used to be like, so when I first started, it was basically lump sum at first, and then a like little bit every year to renew. And I know when I created this, I wanted it to be everything that made, like, I didn't like about another, like, how can I erase that? So I have no issue with like memberships or anything of the sort. I have memberships in my business as well. But for me, it was like, if you go through the content once, of course, there's going to be upgrades and things are going to change. We're going to evolve over time, but you've basically made the investment. So once you're in, you're in. So it's lifetime access to the core contents. If you want to do additional, there's some coaching included in the beginning. If you want additional coaching, obviously that's not included forever. But the core contents of the program, once you're paid in full, they're yours. Any updates that go along with it for as long as the program exists, and I don't have any
Amazing.
plans of getting rid of it anytime soon.
Yeah, amazing. And from the outside looking in, I'll know just hearing all my community talk, like every time you have a summit, we're like, who's doing it? Who's not? What are your guys' takes on it? I've told you that before. I need to send you some of the conversations that these girls have because I know it would make you smile. It's like testimonials happening behind the scenes. But what I hear everybody say is like their biggest takeaway is all the templates, all the resources that you provide, like just done for you stuff. So thank you for breaking that down. That's incredible. Okay. I've been asking a lot of people before we wrap up these podcast episodes. I want to know either because we all have our own different little, like, you know, whatever to us. Either your favorite book that's like changed your life the most, book that you're reading, or even like non-negotiables, rituals, routines. Like, what does Angie need to be the best version of Angie? Because that's what I love hearing on podcasts, and I want to bring that to this.
This is a good one. Okay. I think like the one book, I don't know if I can pick one book, but there might be two.
Or a few. Yeah.
Can I do two? Please. I really liked The One Thing, like, and the domino effect of that, and like learning to just work on one and not be focused on so many. Yes. And it's so funny because people tell you in the moment and you're like, it's fine. Everything's fine. And like, it was fine, but it wasn't great.
You can get so much further with focus.
Yeah. Love. Start with Why was one of the most pivotal. And it honestly, like, I couldn't even tell you a ton about the book, but there was a line like somewhere in the book, and the gist of it was like, when you're laying on your deathbed, what are you going to regret doing? And that line like changed everything. Cause I would be worried about, like, I don't know if I want to say I was worried about but it was like, oh, Paul Mitchell says we should wear black and white to work. Cause everyone wear black and white. And I'm just like, I don't care what you wear to work.
Yeah.
Wear whatever you want. Like, even yesterday we were going to a class and one of the girls was like, what do we wear tomorrow? And I was like, whatever you feel comfortable and confident in. Like, you're an adult and you get to make your own choices. And once I gave myself that permission and I started giving it to other people, I feel like life has just been way better. So as far as routines, I have learned that my mornings have to be for me. And I don't have like the beautiful routine that you have. I wish I did, but I'll never stick with it.
I don't always have it, but sometimes
you do have
a
good routine though.
Thank you.
But that's when my brain is on fire.
Yeah.
And it's once all the noise starts coming in, and I love the noise. I love the interactions. I love chatting with people, but that like 3 a.m. to like 9 a.m. is where I get but I don't try to do that every day. For a long time, I was doing it every day. Yeah. And I've realized how much farther I'll get when I don't set my brain on fire every day. And I kind of have that time to step back. So
and I think in that cycle is so important to know when you're in that moment of inspiration and implementation, and then resting and reaping the rewards of that. Yeah.
And like remembering that success looks different for everybody.
Yeah.
That's the easy, like what's good for me might not be good for Lisa, so on and so forth. Like get comfortable knowing what you want and working towards whatever that is.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm the same, like to extend on what you just said, I will have something that works really well for me for a while, and I'll love that becomes part of my routine. And then I find myself naturally not doing that anymore. It's like, okay, that can go. Like, I don't have to stringent, be on top of all these different things all the time. So I agree. It looks different for everyone, and it's going to look different for you in different seasons of your life. So love those tips. Okay. My final note is I want to wrap up on the giveaway. We kind of already talked about it. Anything else they should know for the winner? That's because the BTE one is going to be our top one, and it's also going to come with my Mindset to Magic course and a one-on-one coaching call with me. So anything else we need to know of what's included in that, Ange?
No, I mean, I think that we really spent more time than I was planning on talking about BTE, but really just that it's lifetime, whatever that means for the course. And it's kind of go at your pace. I think that was the only thing I didn't really talk about. So I've created it to be more of a resource, not a get everything done.
Yeah. Love.
Take what you need.
Love. Amazing. Thank you for being here, friends. This was such a good conversation. And then obviously we'll continue to talk on the backside of things, and we'll get all the links and everything we need. Everything for Angie will be in the show notes. And I'm just so grateful for you for being here.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me.